So Future Histories Lab is a program that aims to look at local history and to reveal hidden histories in order to imagine better futures. And we bring together methods from architecture and city planning and landscape architecture with approaches from the humanities, the arts and humanities. And we're building on the work that we've been doing in the past 7 years in something called the Global Urban Humanities Initiative. And in that program, we offered a lot of team taught courses, and we sent students around the world to China and Mexico City and Lagos, Nigeria. And we were trying to find new ways of looking at cities. And now we're bringing that work closer to home, and we're really focused on the Bay Area, and we're also really focused on community engaged classes. So instead of kind of dropping into a place, our idea is that we want to work closely with people who are, working in the community for the long run, and we also want to be there for the long run. And we want to share stories that otherwise might be untold, and we want to do it in collaboration with communities. So we want to work with communities to tell the stories they think are important and do it in the way that they want to tell. And in order to do that, we create public-facing products. And so that's one thing that's different about the classes that we offer. It's not that you write a paper and turn it into your professor. You're going to be working in a team and then presenting your work to the public. So it might be a performance. It might be a monument that you build in public space. It might be a website. It'll be things that are aimed at the public, because we think that these are stories that need to be shared. So we center our work on something called a studio class. And, there's studio classes in art, and then we are coming out of the architecture and city planning tradition. And I'm showing this picture because the notion of a studio class grows out of the room, the studio, in which the class takes place. And in the ideal situation, which we sometimes have, this special classroom is a place that the students and the professor have 24 hours a day for a whole semester. And each student gets their own desk. Yeah, it's really cool. And you can see that you accumulate knowledge over the course of a semester. And everybody is sharing and putting up ideas on the wall. And everybody sees each other's work on your desks every day, because you're working side by side, and the professor's coming around doing what's called desk crits and making comments. And you spend a lot of time in this room, and everybody's learning from each other. So it's not oriented towards, going off and reading a book and writing a paper and doing your research and then turn it into the professor. It's really about presenting things that so everybody learns from each other. Now, we can't always, aside from the pandemic, we can't always have the luxury of this kind of classroom, but this is the concept that we're building on, that it's an iterative process. You're making things, you're working collaboratively, you're sharing, and you're getting feedback, not just from the professor, but also from invited critics, which are also always part of architecture and city planning education. And so that's the kind of general concept that we're going on in these studio classes. I want to, before I go any further, just kind of give you a little guide to our website. You can see that we've organized sections that are aimed at students, and we have full information on our certificate program and our courses. And you can also look up our alumni. We have very interesting alumni. And in the faculty section, it says for faculty, but this is also for everybody to look at the really amazing array of faculty that we have and professional affiliates as well. And because we work closely with community partners, we have this portal where we hope that community organizations will discover us and come and ask us to create products for them, whether it's a cultural resources map or an oral history or an exhibition. This is a portal, but for community organizations, but it's also a place where students can come and learn what we're working on. Future Histories Journal is our blog, and I just want to share a post that was recently done by one of the students involved in our program, Morgan Vickers. And Morgan worked in North Carolina doing community history, and her essay that you can read here just tells a lot about the kind of approach that we'd like to take. So we're kind of part of a nationwide movement of universities collaborating more closely with communities both in terms of community planning, but also in researching and sharing community histories. So that's our Future Histories Journal. And I'm going to give a brief overview of our certificate program. So what I'm really excited about and what I want to tell you all about is our array of summer courses, which I'm really thrilled about. But I just want to put them in the context of our certificate programs. Now, nobody here is a graduate student, right? If you're a graduate student, raise your hand. Everybody's undergrad, right? So I'm going to just show this page, which is where you can find the requirements. But before and part of the reason that we have this showing a dance studio is this was a course that was taught by an architect and a choreographer teaching together. So that's the kind of thing we do, is we use our bodies to learn about space and public space as well. But, you know, one of the reasons to do our certificate, which is it takes only 3 classes, but, you know, the value of it is not so much to have on your transcript, oh, you completed the certificate in urban humanities. It's about how you can describe what you've learned to future employers or to graduate schools. And what we think is really valuable about our program is that you will learn to work in teams. You'll learn something about project management. You'll learn some technical skills. A number of our courses use Adobe Creative Suite or do video editing. You'll be learning some of those technical skills that are useful. You'll learn storytelling, which is valuable in so many ways. And so that, you know, being able to tell an employer or graduate school that you understand how to listen and then how to share information with effective storytelling is something that especially if you'll come out of classes with a portfolio with some work products you can show, that I think is really valuable. I think the other thing that we do a lot of in all of our classes is listening, right? That may sound basic, but that's something that we really hope to teach. And sometimes you are listening through doing interviews. So sometimes it may be more structured, but it may also just be through the community collaborations that you're working on, that you are just paying attention to the dynamics in the room, to the dynamics, you know, among your classmates, to the way that community members are responding to your presence. So that kind of careful listening is something that happens in our classes. And I think our classes also focus on making ethical decisions. And because when you are making decisions about how to share an individual or community story, there's a lot at stake there. And so in sharing the stories publicly, as opposed to just writing a paper, you know, for a class, when you're sharing something publicly, that's really where the rubber hits the road and where both individually and in a class you'll be making some important decisions. And I think that level of critical thinking and empathy is also something that you will get out of this program. And so all of that is not necessarily obvious from the name, you know, Certificate in Urban Humanities, but that's what's in it. And it also, you know, some connections that may be more, you know, obvious to employers or to graduate schools is we're tied to the notion of public humanities and public history. And what are those things? That is everything from working in museums to, you know, being a historian or an anthropologist for the National Park Service, to doing history or the other academic disciplines that you might be doing in a public setting, or, you know, learning about public art for those of you who are working in the art field. So that's kind of a big picture of why we think what we do is valuable. And now I'm going to tell you a little bit about how to complete the certificate. Now, here on the page, we have a recommended curriculum, and then we have the minimum required curriculum. And I'm going to tell you about the recommended curriculum first. We have a really terrific lecture course that is designed as kind of a centerpiece for our program, because it gives you an overview and a broad sweep and training in how to think about public history and public space. So in particular, you know, a lot of people have been thinking about monuments lately and tearing down Confederate monuments and renaming schools. when you walk through any neighborhood in any city, we're walking past history that happened and we had no idea that it was there, right? And sometimes the history is made visible, whether it's through a plaque or a monument or something in the urban fabric, or if it's something that people are constantly telling stories about, then it becomes visible. But often histories are suppressed or erased or just not highlighted. So this course is looking at primarily American history, but in global context, thinking about the ways that history is expressed and hidden. And the course will be looking at the Berkeley campus as a place where a lot of good and bad stuff happened here that we don't even know about, right? And you're going to be looking at the campus and asking questions about what went on here. So that's hidden in plain sight. That's kind of a core course. And then you can take 2 future history studio courses. And the studio courses are the small, hands-on, community engaged courses that I was talking about. So those have only about 16 students. So it's a really great chance to take some smaller classes, which you don't always have the chance to at Berkeley. And you can take 2 of those kind of site-specific courses that are focused on some specific topic, and you can fulfill your certificate that way. We try to be flexible, however. So right now, the Hidden in Plain Sight course is only offered in summer. And because we know not everybody can take courses in summer, we offer other opportunities, other ways to complete your certificate. The one thing, if you want to do the minimum required curriculum, is you do have to take at least 1 studio course. And we offer a big range of studio courses in the summer. We offer a smaller range of courses during the academic year. And this coming year, in 2021, 2022, at the moment, we expect to offer 2 studio courses in the spring, and possibly 1 in the fall. In addition to taking our future histories, dedicated courses that we have created, you can also complete the certificate by taking an elective in the College of Environmental Design and 1 in the College of Letters and Science. And we have electives lists that are courses that are related to urban life or to methods that relate to what we're doing, and you can fulfill your requirements that way as well. If you are taking the elective, you need to fill out a petition form, because a lot of the electives that we count are special topics classes that change from year to year. So in order for something to count, we ask that before you take it, you consult with me by submitting this petition form. So I'm going to talk about our summer courses in just a minute. We are a small program, so if you know somebody who might be interested in one of our classes, just spread the word. And we're especially looking for students who come from the communities that our classes are based in. So if you know students from Richmond or from West Oakland, we would love to have them take our summer classes. So I'm just going to run through very quickly what these summer classes are. And then I'll also, Jasmine mentioned some of the other classes that are coming up. So this one in Richmond is about a public housing project called Easter Hill. And it was an incredibly utopian project when it was first built in the 50s, and the architects had really high hopes for it. And they designed, kind of nice public spaces, and the houses had individual yards. And then later, and it was integrated in earlier than a lot of housing projects. And eventually, though, it was torn down and has been rebuilt. And what this course is going to do is to use some archival architectural drawings and interviews with the architects and with the residents. And so it's a chance to dive into history by using primary sources, which is something that we really want to train students in archival work, because our future classes are going to be working with community organizations. Sometimes a community organization or just a person, they have all these records, of stuff that happened years ago. They're just in boxes in their attic and old photos. And so part of what we want to do is help organizations that have those materials to organize them and collect those stories and tell those stories and make them public. And so this course is really great for anybody who loves that kind of digging into history and the old photos and the old clippings and the old menus and flyers. And that's a course that's going to teach you how to archive that work. We have a course on the left here taught by Juan Barrowman. It's going to be working closely with an alternative high school in Oakland and reading speculative fiction and then working closely with the high school students to help them tell their stories and use their imaginations and create a graphic novel that's going to talk about their hopes and dreams and also the history of this high school. That's going to be a really interesting course. Our West Oakland course is this race redevelopment and gentrification, Oakland's Hoover Durant Library. And Lynn Horiuchi is an architectural historian and also a community activist who lived for many years in this neighborhood and works closely with the Friends of the Hoover Durant Library and Altamir Cook, who's the head of that organization. When a freeway ripped through this neighborhood in the 60s and tore it apart, it resulted in the closing of the public library that was there. And so for decades, community activists have been trying to get a library reestablished. It's kind of a community center. And in the course of doing this work, they're doing pop-up libraries and events, and they're still intent on getting a bricks and mortar library, but they're doing so much along the way. And in this course, that the students will be doing oral histories about that effort. And in the course of that, you'll learn incredible histories of West Oakland from folks who live there and have been, who know all the Black Panther history in the neighborhood. It's going to be a really fun chance to hang out with old and not so old people and hear their stories, and then tell those stories in a way that's going to help them achieve their goals of reestablishing this library. So that's another really fun one. We have a documentary filmmaking workshop. So if you know anybody who really wants a filmmaking course, there aren't that many filmmaking courses at Berkeley. So this is a really great opportunity to work with Ray Tejas, who's an award-winning documentary veteran filmmaker. If you know anybody who wants to do this course, they need to get in contact with Professor Tejas right away, because you have to do the research for your film in the spring semester. So you need to work with Professor Tejas in the spring, get your research together, and then you'll shoot and edit it in the summer. This course, Performing in Place, Experimental Ethnography, Spatial History, and Creative Mutual Aid, is taught by a wonderful performance maker named Erica Chonchuk, and I've really enjoyed teaching with Erica in the past. She and her collaborators create these kind of one-on-one theater pieces, is not the right word. They are kind of intimate performances where, in this case, you'll be listening and working closely with an elder in South Berkeley, listening to their stories and kind of co-creating an ephemeral monument about something important that happened in South Berkeley. And pretty soon, Emily is going to post some videos. We have the video from the info session that Erica talked at, but on social media, you'll be able to check out some of the shorter versions of those videos. Just hearing Erica and her collaborators talk about how they make these performances and what it means to really connect with people during the pandemic and to fight isolation, and then to tell the stories that should not be forgotten in South Berkeley. I think it's going to be a really wonderful class. So that's our kind of performance oriented class, but it's not for like actors or dancers. It's not performance in that sense. It's about making art collaboratively, and great, especially for people who like talking to seniors. Then we have Pablo Gonzalez's wonderful course on public art and social justice, mapping mural art and narratives. This is going to be looking at protest art in Oakland, working with an artists collective and mapping the art, doing some augmented reality to tell the stories of the murals, doing some podcasting, kind of gathering information about this art so that people know more about the stories behind the art, and then sharing it publicly too. So, and Professor Gonzalez is just so high energy and so dedicated. I think it's going to be fantastic. That's in session A. So some of our courses are in session A and are 6 weeks, and some of them are in session C and are 8 weeks. But we've designed the schedule so that the morning, if you want to take the lecture course, it's in the morning, and then the studio courses are all in the afternoon. Then coming up, we have a a course on eugenics at Berkeley. So this is part of what I was talking about, things that happened at Berkeley that shouldn't have happened, but looking at that history on campus, and then, thinking of ways to help remember, to make that not invisible anymore, so that the kinds of injustices that happened through the eugenics movement won't happen again. Then next summer, we're excited. We have some courses on archiving a social justice practice with posters, working with the Filipino community in San Francisco to create some exhibits in a public plaza there. That's what's coming up next summer. So that's what we have going. And I encourage you, if you're interested, in the certificate, sign up now. Just go to the page on our website where the forms are, just so that we are in touch with you and know that you're possibly interested. There's no obligation, but by signing up, then we can keep in touch with you and help you complete the certificate, and also give guidance on what courses might be most valuable in the context of the rest of your academic career. So, any questions?
I have one.
Mm-hmm.
In terms of your courses, do you guys ever repeat courses, or do you guys, create new courses as time goes on?
Yeah, so the lecture course, Hidden in Plain Sight, Public History and Public Place, that one we are planning to repeat each summer. The other courses are probably not going to be repeated in exactly the same form. We hope to have many of the same professors, and they might continue work on similar projects, but it's kind of hard to say what is going to be offered and not. The other spring course that's not on our website yet, which will be in 2022, is going to be Scott Saul in American Studies teaching the Berkeley Revolution, which is this incredible kind of archive and kind of encyclopedia of East Bay history. And that is going to be offered in spring 2022. And in this course, you'll just be adding to this really rich collection of stories that are both kind of articles about history in the East Bay, but also they take primary documents and put them on this website so that other researchers and other people can use it. So that's another course that's coming up in the spring. So, Emily, am I forgetting anything?
I don't think so. We do have a student mixer coming up on April 1st that we haven't advertised yet, but definitely you two keep your eyes open on our social media or on our website. We'd love to have you. And it'll be me and our other student worker. And we can answer more questions if you have any at that time too.
And we have another event on March 15th, which is Erica Chong-Shuk, who's teaching our performance and elders in South Berkeley class. She and Amara Tabor-Smith, who's an amazing African-American choreographer, maker of ritual and dance, just really interesting artist. She and Erica are going to be in conversation in a program that's co-sponsored by us and by the Arts and Design Initiative. So, yeah. Any other questions? Great. Well, thank you so much for coming, and hope to see you at our future events and in our classes.